you write a lot about this concept of the sublime. And I actually got a lot of my downloads on it in the Daily Laws, which is sort of a great compendium of all the laws and wisdom that you've written about over the years. And this is the whole month of December. And you write that in our culture, we're uncomfortable with even the thought of death. And I know that 2 months after finishing The Laws of Human Nature, you suffered a serious stroke. So first of all, I hope that you're doing better, and I see that you're doing a lot better. You write that after that happened to you, you had to confront the reality of death more viscerally than ever. And that power of confronting your mortality gives us access to what you call the sublime. Can you expand a little bit on what you mean by this expression, sublime?
Well, I've written the 18th chapter of The Laws of Human Nature, which is about confronting your mortality, in May of 2018. And in August, literally 3 months afterwards, I came this close to dying. I was driving a car, and my wife was in the passenger seat. If she had been there, which was very frequently, I'd be driving by myself, I would be here talking to you right now. She saw something going on with my face, which is what happens when you're having a stroke. Everything gets really weird and strange, and like half your face is collapsing. She goes, "Robert, pull over, pull over." I go, "What? Nothing's going on." Pull up. She forced me to pull over to the side of the road. And then, I went unconscious. I don't remember anything. And she called 911, and fortunately an ambulance was there. So a series of fortunate things where she was with me. She called quickly. She knew what to do. They arrived quickly. I would have otherwise either been dead, or I would have suffered permanent brain damage, and I wouldn't be able to talk to you, or I wouldn't have been able to write another book. Uh-huh. So I'm very fortunate on that. And so the irony was, I wrote a chapter that is kind of intellectual and abstract. And then 3 months later, I literally experienced what I had been writing about. And so the sublime, I tell people, the word sublime comes from a Latin of limit. And limit is the threshold of a door or a window. And so sublimit means to move up to the threshold of a door or a window. And so that what I call that is that door, on the other side of that door is death, right? That's the ultimate mystery. That's the ultimate door we all pass through. You can say when you're born, you enter life, it's like opening a door and entering it. And when you die, that door is closed. And the sublime, in that sense of the word, is going right up to that door of death, experiencing it, peering on the other side, it's getting a sense of what it feels like, what it could mean, and then pulling back and living. And what it does is it totally changes your mind. It totally changes your mindset, your spirit. It's like the most powerful drug experience you could ever have, because everything in your brain shifts in those kinds of moments. And if you read the literature on near-death experiences, it's both really, really interesting and also a little bit scary in some ways, because it shows that the brain as it functions is largely creating an illusion that we live in, and that when you come close to death, you're actually experiencing the reality of what is going on in the world. And so, to me, what the sublime is, if I can make that metaphor, is I like to say that there's kind of a circle, and this circle represents what we humans in our particular cultural moment are supposed to think, believe, and behave like, right? This is what's appropriate to our cultural moment. These are the ideas that are acceptable. This is the reality that our society believes in, right? We no longer believe that there's Zeus in the sky and Athena. We no longer believe in the Egyptian gods. We have our own reality. A lot of it has to do with science, okay? So there's a circle there. You're not supposed to go beyond that. You're supposed to stay inside that circle to be a socially acceptable human being. That circle existed in ancient Egypt, but it wasn't the same values, but
it wasn't the same.
But it had the same limitations. But what human nature is, some psychologists call this the phenomenon of induction. The moment you prohibit something to the human brain, we're fascinated by it. We're fascinated by that taboo. This is where we're not supposed to go. This is what we're not supposed to think. These are the sexual practices we're not supposed to do, etc. Whoa, you start thinking about them because we have a perverse streak to us. Try an example. If I tell you, Fred, right now, don't think of an elephant. Whatever you do, don't think of an elephant.
Yeah, good way.
Thinking of it, right? Don't really think of what you're not supposed to do. You can't help it. Okay? Yeah. So what lies beyond that circle is like that elephant. We're interested in it, but we're almost a little bit afraid to go there. So the sublime is exploring those aspects around that circle that are not accepted, ideas that we don't really normally entertain, feelings we don't normally entertain, thoughts that we're not supposed to think, actions we're not supposed to do, and experiencing them, going up there and getting rid of your fear opens your mind up, because living in that circle can become very boring and familiar. Everything you experience day to day is the same. You live in your little phone world and everything is kind of limited and based on algorithms. You're not experiencing what the human brain and the human spirit is capable of, right? There's a whole world out there you're not aware of. Our consciousness were developed for incredible expansion, for understanding these mysteries of life itself. And yet you're living in this little narrow circle. I'm trying to open you up to the sublime realities. And each chapter in the new book has an aspect of that. The cosmos, your own childhood, ancient history, evolution of life. You know, just for instance, on that score, if you understand how unlikely it is that human beings ever evolved with our consciousness as it is, and that I'm talking to you via the internet, via Riverside or whatever it's called, is incredible. The odds against it are mind-blowing, because they had all of these bottlenecks in evolution where multicellular organisms almost never evolved. Like body parts, the way our bodies are organized, almost never evolved. If dinosaurs hadn't been killed off 60-some million years ago, you and I wouldn't be here. If mammals hadn't evolved, on and on and on and on and on. So thinking that way makes you realize just to be alive is the most insane experience. The world that you live in, with all of its technology, with all of the nature around there, is so unlikely. You never think about that. When you think about a sublime thought or have a sublime experience, it sends a chill up your spine. I compare it to the combination of two contrary emotions, and neurologists have emphasized this. When you experience two contrary emotions at the same time, it gives you a very powerful emotional impact. And the sublime is pain and pleasure at the same time, fear and fascination at the same time. You're afraid of the eternity of time and the vastness of space, but you're also fascinated by it. And the combination of the two create this sort of tingling effect in your brain. If you were simply fascinated, you'd just be a fascination. If you were simply afraid, you wouldn't go there. The two together create this kind of sublime effect. I could go on for hours, but that's the book that I'm currently reading.
That is so powerful. And I feel like we're kind of full circle with the notion again of pulling back the curtain. We started with the hypocrisies of power, and now it's like this unbelievable grand mystery of the cosmos and what lies outside of the circle that our culture draws for ourselves. And again, we're back at that theme of like pulling back the curtain, experiencing what is hidden, kind of revealing what is hidden. Do you feel a theme that has been kind of consistent for you throughout your unbelievable writing career?
Yeah, I think so. I'm always trying to challenge myself, always trying to go past where I was before. But I must say that I've been wanting to write this book on the sublime for 16 years. I was supposed to write it after the war book, and then I got into the 50 book and the mastery. But something that means a lot to me. But yeah, exploring things that are taboo, that you're not supposed to talk about, that are a little bit beyond, that are unfamiliar, that are outside the banality of what we normally think and do during our lives, has always fascinated me. The naughties of heaven.
So that's the next book officially, the book on the Sublime.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm working on it.
Amazing. Any kind of idea of when that might come out?
I'm having a really hard time, Fred, to be honest with you, because of it's going very slowly. I had a lot of distractions, the daily law, etc. And also physically, I can't type because I still have weakness in my left hand. It still doesn't respond. And so I have to go through this almost medieval process of writing a book where I handwrite everything and edit it, writing it, and then dictate it to the computer and then edit it with one hand. So I've written about a third of the book, but it's going very slowly. So don't pressure me. Give me a couple years. It'll be out.
No pressure.
Well, hopefully,
I'm just saying,
hopefully we'll all be alive.
If you need any help, if you need any support whatsoever, I'm sure we can get Ryan back in the fold. Anything at all. But I mean, that sounds like the topic is just absolutely unbelievable, and the way you've just described it, it's just like really wow. So, but no pressure.
Okay.
Of course.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't respond very well to stress and pressure. That's probably what led to my stroke in the first place. So I have to try and train myself to chill, to relax, and not get myself too stressed, so I don't have another one of those accidents.
No stress, but the world, they can't wait to read your book on the Sublime.
Okay. That is stress. Okay.
Robert Greene, thank you very much, sir. It was an absolute honor. It was everything I wish it was, and even more. Thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.